A sudden crash cut through the noise of the cafeteria, and a tray hit the ground, sushi and rice splattering across the tiles of Hampton Bay Academy, where money shone brighter than the Florida sun. Sophia Lane froze, her crutch snatched away, held high like a trophy above sneering faces. "Careful, princess," Brandon Hayes taunted, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. Laughter followed, sharp and cruel, bouncing off the glass walls. Phones appeared instantly, red lights blinking, ready to capture someone else's pain. A splash of orange juice hit Sophia's blazer, sliding down like a stain she couldn't erase. "Fight, fight, fight," the chant began, rhythmic and ugly. Some kids laughed, others turned away, afraid they'd be next. At the back, Malik Jordan set his chopsticks down beside his half-eaten lunch, rice and beans packed by his mother before her morning shift. He was the kid no one noticed, the janitor's son who walked the same halls his father cleaned. But today, he noticed. His eyes locked on Sophia, calm and steady. And when he stood, quiet as a rising tide, everything in that glittering cafeteria shifted. The place looked more like a luxury hotel lobby, sunlight spilling through glass, steel railings gleaming, students wrapped in uniforms that screamed privilege. To them, lunchtime wasn't a break, it was a show. And Sophia had just been shoved on stage. Brandon leaned over her, twirling the crutch like a bat. "Look at the princess," he sneered, "can't even stand without her crown." Tyler and Logan laughed, phones tilted forward, capturing every second. Sophia's white uniform was streaked with juice, her hands trembling as she reached for her tray. "Daddy's money can't fix weak legs," Tyler jeered, and the laughter swelled again. She bent to pick up the food, but Brandon kicked the tray away. Rice scattered like sand across the floor, and every laugh cut deeper. Across the room, Malik's jaw tightened. He'd seen this kind of cruelty before, the kind that hides behind privilege and applause. He didn't speak, not yet. Beside him, Kayla Reed hesitated, her phone frozen in her hand. Her lips pressed together, shame flickering in her eyes. Sophia stood slowly, her balance shaking, her crutch still out of reach. The chant grew louder, trays slamming in rhythm, mockery turning into a drum beat. And when Brandon raised the crutch high, smiling like he owned the room, Malik Jordan, quiet, invisible, unstoppable, rose to his feet. From that moment, nothing in Hampton Bay Academy would ever be the same again. From the outside, Sophia Lane's life looked perfect, untouchable, wrapped in sunlight and glass. Her father, Richard Lane, one of Florida's richest developers, had his name glowing on towers that kissed the Miami sky. And yet, no amount of money could fix what was broken at home. Her mother, Eleanor, had been the quiet light of their world, until cancer dimmed it forever. Before she passed, she whispered, "The stars still shine, even when you fall." Those words became Sophia's anchor, but at Hampton Bay Academy, surrounded by diamonds and cruelty, they often felt like a fading echo. Sophia walked differently. Each step careful, uneven, marked by the condition she was born with. In a school of chauffeur Teslas and ocean view penthouses, her limp became a target. They called her crippled princess, charity case and pearls. And the cruelest truth, her father's fortune couldn't buy respect. Across town, Malik Jordan carried his own weight. His father, Daniel, once ran a small dojo, a place that smelled of sweat and sawdust, where sunlight sliced through broken blinds as he taught kids to stand tall. "Strength isn't about striking first," Daniel said. "It's about standing firm when someone else needs you. Never fight for pride, always protect." Malik was 10 when his father's laughter stopped mid-lesson, a heart attack silencing the dojo forever. His mother, Angela, worked herself raw to keep them afloat, scrubbing hotel floors, cleaning houses, until she found steady work as a maid in the Lane family's penthouse. Each morning, she ironed Richard Lane's shirts until they gleamed, polished marble counters high above the city, then came home sore but grateful. Sometimes, Malik sat quietly in that same penthouse, finishing homework while his mother worked. And that's where he first saw Sophia, not as a rich man's daughter, but as a lonely girl staring at a sky she no longer believed in. At school, Malik blended into the background. His backpack was worn, his shoes patched, his lunch the same rice and beans Angela had packed for years. They called him the maid's kid, whispering pity like poison. But behind that silence lived strength, the kind that never needed to prove itself. In the cracked, empty dojo his father left behind, Malik trained alone. Every punch, every stance, was a conversation with a man he'd lost. He never showed off, never bragged. He just carried his father's code like a quiet fire that refused to die. Two lives, two worlds, one gilded, one scarred, moving toward each other without knowing. Sophia, wrapped in privilege but starved of love. Malik, raised in struggle but built on discipline. Both invisible, both mocked for what they never chose. And both destined to meet under the same cruel chant echoing through a cafeteria by the sea. Friday afternoons at Hampton Bay Academy buzzed with restless energy. Sunlight spilled through glass walls, trays clattered, laughter sparked like static. Beyond the windows, the Atlantic shimmered, calm and endless. Inside, something darker stirred. The tension snapped when Brandon Hayes' shadow fell across Sophia's table. Hair slicked back, shoes shining like mirrors, he walked as if the school belonged to him. Behind him came Tyler Brooks and Logan Reed, two satellites orbiting his ego. Move over, princess, Brandon sneered, pushing her tray to the edge. Or should I call someone to help you? Tyler cracked his knuckles. Logan lifted his phone, camera already rolling. The cafeteria fell into an expectant hush. Sophia's hands trembled as she reached for her crutch. But Brandon was faster, snatching it and spinning it like a trophy. The chant rose again, soft at first, then sharpened. Fight, fight, fight. Sophia tried to stand without it, her legs trembling beneath her weight. Brandon shoved her shoulder, and her tray tipped over. Rice and juice burst across the floor, and laughter exploded, cruel and thunderous, filling the glittering cafeteria. Phones lifted higher, red lights blinking like beacons of cruelty. Every second of Sophia's humiliation was captured, streamed, and shared. No one asked if she was okay, no one wondered if the line had been crossed. The cafeteria had become an arena, and the crowd was hungry for a show. Sophia's eyes burned as she crouched to gather the mess, fingers sticky with juice and rice. Careful, Brandon Hayes sneered, dangling her crutch just out of reach. Wouldn't want you to fall. Oh wait, you already do that. Laughter erupted, sharp and effortless. At the far corner, Malik Jordan's chopsticks stopped midair. He watched silently, every tremor in Sophia's shoulders, every arrogant twist of Brandon's wrist as he spun the crutch. Malik saw what no one else did. Brandon's stance was sloppy, his balance weak, his ego loud. But no one noticed Malik. To them, he was invisible, the janitor's kid in thrift store shoes. Sophia braced herself against the table, trying to rise again. Brandon shoved her shoulder, harder this time. She stumbled, breath catching, panic flashing across her face. The cafeteria exploded with noise. Some screamed, others laughed until tears rolled down their cheeks. The chant pounded louder, fight, fight, fight. Logan's phone zoomed in, capturing every cruel detail. Tyler shouted, come on, show the princess how it's done. Sophia's knees began to give way, and that's when Malik stood. He didn't rush, he didn't yell. He moved with quiet precision, weaving between tables toward the chaos. The sound bent around him, like a storm circling its comm center. For the first time, Brandon noticed him. His smirk widened. Well, look who it is, the janitor's boy. He held the crutch higher, shaking it like a trophy. Come to rescue your princess? Laughter rolled through the cafeteria. But to Malik, this wasn't a game, it was a test, a moment he'd trained for his whole life. As Sophia's knees buckled, Malik reached her side. Without hesitation, he steadied her chair, lifted the tray, and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. His calm was electric, still and powerful. The room froze. Laughter faded. Phones hovered, waiting. Look at this, Brandon jeered, circling him like a showman. The maid's boy thinks he's a hero. He swung the crutch like a sword, his grin stretching wide. Maybe you want to limp beside her too, huh? Tyler stomped the floor to the rhythm of the chant. Fight, fight, fight. But Malik didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on Sophia's, steady, quiet, unspoken. You're not alone, they seemed to say. He rose to full height, stepping between her and Brandon. His stance was relaxed, yet immovable. Oh, this is adorable, Brandon mocked, leaning close enough that Malik could feel his breath. Let's see what you've got, charity boy. Before Sophia could speak, Brandon shoved her again. But Malik's hand shot out, catching her before she fell. The move was effortless, controlled, pure defense. Sophia stared at him, stunned. The cafeteria fell silent once more. Phone still pointed, and every eye fixed on the boy no one had ever truly seen. Until now. Brandon mistook the silence for surrender. His jaw tightened, knuckles whitening as he drew back his fist, ready to swing. Gasps echoed through the cafeteria, and Sophia froze. Malik didn't move, not until the very last instant. Brandon's punch sliced through air. Malik pivoted smoothly, moving like water. With one hand, he redirected the strike, not hitting, just guiding. The force of Brandon's own punch spun him off balance. He stumbled forward, crashing into a sushi table. Trays flew, chopsticks scattered like rain. The cafeteria erupted, screams, shouts, disbelief. For the first time that day, no one laughed. Only shock remained. "Get him!" Tyler Brooks shouted, charging straight toward Sophia. His heavy steps thundered across the floor. But Malik moved first. In a blur, he caught Tyler's leg mid-kick, twisted, and redirected the force. Tyler flipped through the air, hitting the ground with a thud that rattled the glass walls. Silence fell, absolute silence. Malik stood tall, calm, steady. Not one punch thrown, not one word spoken. To the crowd, it looked impossible. To Malik, it was discipline, control in its purest form. He stooped, lifted Sophia's crutch, and placed it gently in her trembling hands. "Stand tall," he said quietly. Sophia rose, shoulders back for the first time in months. Her eyes, once full of shame, now glimmered with strength. Whispers rippled through the room. "He didn't even hit them. That's martial arts. Who is this guy?" Brandon stumbled up, red-faced, his shirt smeared with sushi and juice. Tyler groaned from the floor. Logan's phone shook in his hand. The cafeteria, once roaring, now felt like a courtroom, every eye locked on Malik Jordan, the boy they'd never seen before. But Brandon wasn't finished. His pride screamed louder than reason. "He attacked us," he shouted, his voice cracking. "You all saw it. The janitor's kid jumped me, he thinks he's better than us." Tyler, still winded, nodded weakly. "Yeah, he came at us first." Logan lifted his phone, eager to join in. "It's true. He's violent. Dangerous." The crowd hesitated. Some replayed their videos, the movements, the falls. It looked like fighting. But those who really watched knew better. "He didn't punch," someone whispered. "He just moved." Then the cafeteria doors burst open. Mrs. Peterson, the vice principal, stormed in, heels striking the floor like a gavel. Her sharp eyes swept the chaos, Brandon dripping in food, Tyler on the ground, Logan filming, Sophia pale, Malik still. "You," she snapped, pointing at Malik. "My office. Now. You're suspended immediately." Gasps filled the room. Sophia's mouth opened to speak, but Mrs. Peterson cut her off. "No excuses. Violence will not be tolerated, no matter the reason." Brandon's smirk returned, crooked and satisfied. "Told you," he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. Tyler laughed weakly, relieved the blame had shifted. And in that moment, the boy who defended the helpless was branded the villain. Logan's camera kept rolling, capturing every word of Mrs. Peterson's stern voice as she declared the suspension. He was already imagining the views, the comments, the clicks. Malik stayed silent. His face calm, but inside, injustice pressed like a stone on his chest. All his father's lessons, discipline, restraint, control, felt tested in that single moment. And still, the world looked ready to call him guilty before he could even speak. Then, a voice cut through the tension. "No, ma'am." Every head turned. Kayla Reed stepped forward, her phone raised high, trembling hand steady enough to record. "You didn't see everything," she said, her voice shaking but clear. Brandon froze. Tyler's face drained of color. Logan lowered his phone. Kayla walked to the front, her screen glowing bright. With one tap, the cafeteria's smartboard flickered to life. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the footage appeared, sharp, undeniable. There it was, Brandon shoving Sophia, Tyler lunging, Malik stepping in only to shield. Never striking, never attacking. Mrs. Peterson's face tightened, her authority trembling under the weight of truth. The room erupted, not in laughter, but outrage. "He didn't start it," someone shouted. "Play it again," another cried. Phones turned now toward Mrs. Peterson herself, recording her silence. Brandon's smirk shattered. He stared at the footage, panic rising in his voice. "That doesn't prove anything," he stammered, though even he didn't believe it. The students saw through him. They heard the fear behind his words. Sophia stepped forward, her crutch tapping the tile. Her voice trembled but held firm. "He protected me," she said. "He didn't hurt anyone, and you all know it." The cafeteria roared in agreement. The chant rose again, but this time, it wasn't cruel. Justice, justice, justice. For the first time all year, Brandon Hayes wasn't leading the chant. He was drowning in it. The smartboard replayed the truth again and again: Brandon's shove, Tyler's kick, Malik's calm redirection. Every cruel laugh, every jeer, now frozen in digital light. Students leaned in, watching not a fight, but a defense. Mrs. Peterson barked, "That's enough," and reached for the controls. But Kayla pulled her phone back, her voice rising. "No, everyone needs to see this. He didn't fight for himself, he fought to protect." The chant thundered louder, not for violence, but for truth. Justice, justice, justice. Brandon's face burned crimson. "You're all blind," he shouted. "He's dangerous, he humiliated us." But his voice cracked, breaking under the weight of evidence. Logan looked down, guilt flooding his face. Tyler wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. And then, silence. Sophia broke it. "He never hurt anyone," she said softly. "You did." She turned to Brandon. "You tried to make me small, but he reminded me to stand tall." Applause erupted like a wave. Hands slammed against tables, cheers filled the air. For once, the cafeteria wasn't ruled by fear, it was ruled by truth. Then the doors swung open. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped inside, and the noise died instantly. Gasps spread through the room. Everyone recognized him, Mr. Delgado, one of the Academy's main investors, there for a board meeting. He paused, taking in the scene, the smartboard frozen on Brandon mid-shove, the crowd of students, Malik standing quietly beside Sophia. "What is going on here?" His voice cut through the air like glass. Mrs. Peterson straightened fast, tugging her jacket into place. "An incident, sir, a disciplinary matter." But before she could finish, a student called out, "Watch the video." And suddenly, every phone in the room lifted again. Dozens of screens glowed at once, showing the same truth from every angle. A truth no one could silence anymore. Mr. Delgado's eyes narrowed, his gaze shifting from Brandon's trembling arrogance to Malik's calm, unshaken stance. "So let me understand," he said evenly. "This young man defended someone weaker, without throwing a single punch." He paused, his tone sharpening, "And you want to punish him for it?" Mrs. Peterson froze, her confidence cracking as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Brandon took a step back, the swagger draining from his face. Delgado turned toward Malik, his voice softer now. "What's your name, son?" "Malik Jordan," came the calm reply. Delgado nodded slowly. "Discipline like that is rare," he said, his voice carrying through the silent room. "Control like that," he added, glancing toward Brandon, "is real power, the kind arrogance will never understand." The cafeteria erupted. Cheers exploded from every corner as students leapt to their feet, clapping, shouting Malik's name. Even the teachers in the back exchanged knowing glances, silent approval shining in their eyes. Brandon's empire of fear collapsed, crushed under the weight of his own ego. But he wasn't ready to accept it. "This isn't over," he snarled, pushing through the crowd, pointing at Malik. "You'll regret this." Malik didn't move. He met Brandon's glare with the same steady calm that had silenced the room before. He didn't need to answer, his silence said everything. Sophia lifted her crutch, standing taller than she ever had. "Yes," she said clearly, her voice steady, "it is over." The chant rose again, louder, stronger. "Justice, justice, justice." Phones recorded every second, capturing the fall of the bullies and the rise of the boy no one had ever seen before. For Brandon, it was the end of untouchable power. For Malik and Sophia, it was the beginning of something far greater. And in that glittering cafeteria by the sea, discipline had finally humbled arrogance. That night, the clip from Hampton Bay Academy flooded every corner of social media. 10 seconds of chaos became millions of views. Slow-motion edits replayed Brandon's fist slicing through air, the moment Malik pivoted, calm and precise. Comments filled every feed. "He didn't even punch. That's real control. The janitor's kid just humbled the Golden Boys." But the biggest change didn't happen online. It happened in a penthouse above the Miami skyline. Richard Lane, buried in meetings and deals, sat frozen, watching the video of his daughter standing tall beside Malik Jordan. He saw her shoulders squared, her chin high, her voice steady as she said, "Yes, it is over." And for the first time, he understood how much she had faced alone, the grief, the pain, the humiliation, while he was too busy to see it. Richard set his phone down, not to check his emails, not to chase another deal, but to call his daughter. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly when she answered. And for once, his words carried presence instead of promises. The next morning, the air at Hampton Bay Academy felt different. Brandon and his crew walked the halls with their eyes lowered, their arrogance stripped away. Students glanced at Malik and Sophia with quiet respect, some nodding, others offering soft smiles. When Sophia took her seat in the cafeteria, Malik across from her, no one dared to whisper or laugh. The same cafeteria that once echoed with cruelty now hummed with something new, respect. They weren't invisible anymore. They weren't just two kids who had endured. They were proof that quiet strength could shatter even the loudest cruelty. And finally, the world had seen them. They became more than just students that day, they became symbols. The message spread far beyond the academy's shining glass walls. Strength isn't about who throws the first punch, but about knowing when you don't need to. Courage isn't the loudest voice in the room, but the calm one that refuses to break. For Sophia, it was reclaiming her dignity. For Malik, it was living his father's code with honor. For Richard Lane, it was remembering what it truly means to be a father. And for everyone who watched, it was proof arrogance always collapses beneath its own weight, while discipline endures. This is Black Stories, where the underestimated rise, and silence becomes the loudest voice of all. If this story moved you, share it. Share it for every kid who's been mocked, for every parent who's prayed their child would find strength. And don't forget to subscribe, because courage only wins when we choose not to look away.